I once watched a surgeon perform a miracle, not in an operating room, but in a quiet moment of belief. He had failed the same procedure 3 times. Patients didn't recover. His hands began to shake. Then he did something strange. He stopped practicing on cadavers and started practicing on his imagination. He saw himself succeeding with such clarity that his nervous system couldn't tell the difference. 2 weeks later, flawless execution. He didn't find new knowledge. He found a power that was always his. That power is not special. It is universal. And it is yours. I want to talk to you today about something that will change everything if you let it. Not because I'm going to give you new information, but because I'm going to help you recognize something that's been true about you since before you were born. Something that's been waiting, patiently, behind all your doubts and all your struggles, for you to finally see it. You've been taught that power is something you gain, something you earn, through effort, through achievement, through worthiness, through proving yourself to God or the universe or life itself. And that belief, that single misunderstanding, has kept you in a state of perpetual reaching, always trying, always hoping, always begging, always performing, always exhausting yourself in pursuit of something you believe is outside of you, above you, beyond you. But here's the truth that no one told you, the truth that changes everything. You are not trying to become powerful. You are trying to remember that you already are. You're not on a journey to find God. You're on a journey to recognize that what you've been calling God has been living as you, breathing as you, experiencing life through you, this entire time. Now I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking this sounds too good to be true, or too simple, or maybe even blasphemous depending on how you were raised. But stay with me. Because this isn't about belief systems or religion, or adopting some new philosophy. This is about recognition. And once you see it, once you really see it, you cannot unsee it, and your life will never be the same. This video is for the person who's tired. Tired of self-help that makes you feel more broken than before you started. Tired of spiritual teachings that sound beautiful, but don't actually work when you try to apply them. Tired of motivational content that pumps you up on Sunday and leaves you deflated by Tuesday. You don't need more information. You've got plenty of information. What you need is a single clarifying realization that changes how you see yourself at the most fundamental level. You feel like you're on the outside of life, don't you? Like you're knocking on a door that won't open. Watching others receive blessings, opportunities, love, success, while you wait your turn. You've been praying, affirming, visualizing, doing all the things you're supposed to do, and yet there's still this feeling of separation. This feeling that the power, the magic, the divine favor exists, but it exists for other people. Not for you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And here's what I want you to understand. That feeling of separation is not evidence that you lack divine power. It's evidence that you've misidentified yourself. You've been worshiping a divinity you already are. You've been praying to a power that's already flowing through you. You've been begging for access to something that was never withheld. Let me tell you what most teachings get wrong. Most teachings tell you to align with divine will, to surrender to God's plan, to make yourself worthy of blessings. And there's nothing inherently wrong with surrender, or humility, or devotion. But the framework is backwards, because it positions you as separate from the source. It makes you the servant when you are actually the distributor. It makes you the receiver when you are actually the broadcaster. God, the universe, infinite intelligence, whatever word you prefer, it is not a being separate from you that you appeal to. It is the substance you are made of. It is what you are, not what you're connected to, not what you're aligned with, what you are. When I say you are divine, I don't mean you are like God. I mean you are an individualized expression of the one infinite consciousness that is the only thing that exists. Just as a wave is not separate from the ocean, you are not separate from divinity. You are what divinity looks like, in human form, localized, focused, experiencing itself from this particular vantage point, with your unique personality, your unique perspective, your unique desires, and the implications of this are staggering. It means when you think, God is thinking through you. When you desire something, the universe is announcing its intention to expand through you. Your thoughts are not powerless noise in your head. They are creative commands spoken in the language of the infinite. Your imagination is not escapism or fantasy. It is the workshop of creation itself. Now let me share with you a story that illustrates this perfectly. Imagine a man who lives in poverty on the streets of a great city. Day after day, he begs for coins. He sleeps in doorways. He wraps himself in old newspapers when it's cold. He has come to believe that he is forgotten, abandoned, unlucky, cursed even. This is his identity. This is who he believes himself to be. One day, a lawyer tracks him down. It's not easy to find him because he has no address, no phone, no permanence. But the lawyer is persistent, and when they finally meet, the lawyer delivers stunning news. This man's estranged father, a man of immense wealth, whom he hasn't seen since childhood, has passed away. And in his will, he left everything to this son. Everything: mansions, bank accounts, investments, businesses. Overnight, this man on the street is among the richest people in the nation. The lawyer hands him documents. Proof. Bank statements. Keys. Legal papers that make it all official. The inheritance is real. The money is sitting there. The properties are in his name. Everything has changed. But here's the tragedy. The man thanks the lawyer politely. He takes the documents, he folds them carefully and puts them in his coat pocket, and then he returns to his corner. He continues begging for coins. He continues sleeping in doorways. Not because the inheritance isn't real, not because he doesn't have legal access to it, but because his identity hasn't caught up to his reality. In his mind, in his feeling of himself, he is still a beggar. And so a beggar is what he continues to be, even with millions in the bank. You are that man. I say this not to insult you but to wake you up. Not metaphorically. Actually, the infinite creative power of the universe is your inheritance. It was never withheld from you. It was never conditional. It was never something you had to earn. You simply never claimed it because you didn't recognize who you are. You've been begging for what you already own. You've been praying for access to a power that is your very nature. And I can already hear the question forming in your mind. If this is true, if I already possess this power, then why isn't my life working? Why am I struggling? Why haven't my prayers been answered? Why do I feel so powerless? And this is where we have to go deeper, because the answer to that question is the key to everything. What if the only thing between you and everything you desire is not worthiness, not readiness, not divine timing, but simply recognition? What if you're like that radio sitting on a shelf, surrounded by static, asking, why can't I hear music? Why am I broken? But the radio isn't broken. It's just not tuned. Think about this. Right now, all around you, invisible to your eyes, are thousands of radio frequencies, jazz music, symphony orchestras, talk shows, news broadcasts, every kind of signal you could imagine. They don't need to be created. They already exist. They're broadcasting right now. But if your radio isn't tuned to the right frequency, you won't hear them. And you might conclude that the music doesn't exist, or that it exists for others, but not for you, or that you're not worthy of receiving it. Your mind is that radio, and your emotional state, your habitual feeling about yourself and about life, is the dial. Fear tunes you to frequencies where danger and chaos are broadcasting. Doubt tunes you to frequencies where lack and limitation are the dominant signals. Resentment tunes you to frequencies where injustice and betrayal keep showing up. But gratitude, faith, calm certainty, the feeling of already being blessed, already being loved, already being provided for, these tune you to frequencies where solutions, abundance, love, opportunity, and miracles are already broadcasting. You have spent your entire life asking life to change its signal. Please let money come to me. Please let love find me. Please let health return to me. And life has been whispering back so quietly you couldn't hear it. I'm not changing. All signals are already here. You need to tune in. This is not positive thinking. This is not pretending. This is understanding how consciousness operates. You are not receiving your life from somewhere outside yourself. You are broadcasting your life from within yourself. Every thought you think consistently, every feeling you sustain, every belief you hold about yourself, and what's possible for you, these are signals, and the circumstances of your life are echoes returning. Let me make this even clearer. You've been taught backwards. You think circumstances create your feelings. You think, when I get the money, then I'll feel abundant. When I meet the person, then I'll feel loved. When my health improves, then I'll feel grateful and at peace. But this is like saying, when the radio plays music, then I'll tune to the right frequency. You have the order reversed. In truth, your sustained feelings create your circumstances. What you focus on with emotional intensity becomes the blueprint your subconscious mind uses to reorganize reality. This is not magic. This is not wishful thinking. This is how the creative principle of life operates. Your subconscious mind is impersonal and obedient. It's like soil. It doesn't judge seeds. It doesn't ask if you deserve a harvest. It doesn't say, this person has been good, so I'll grow their seeds. But this person hasn't suffered enough yet, so I'll refuse to grow theirs. No, you plant fear, it grows fear. You plant faith, it grows miracles. You plant doubt, you harvest experiences that confirm your doubt. You plant certainty, you harvest experiences that validate your certainty. The subconscious is utterly neutral. It's a servant, not a judge. It simply accepts whatever you consistently impress upon it through thought and feeling, and it externalizes that as your experience. It creates conditions in your outer world that match the conditions in your inner world. This is why affirmations alone rarely work. You stand in front of a mirror and you say, I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am loved. And your conscious mind hears the words. But your subconscious, which is listening not to your words, but to your feelings, hears something entirely different. It hears the anxiety underneath. It hears the doubt. It hears the desperate hope that if you say it enough times, maybe it will become true. And so it gives you more experiences of lack, more experiences of waiting, more experiences of hoping, because that's the signal you're actually broadcasting. But when you marry imagination with emotion, when you feel the reality of your desire as though it's already true, when you let your body respond to an imagined scene the way it would respond to a real one, your subconscious cannot distinguish between the two. It begins to work on your behalf. It begins to rearrange circumstances. It begins to draw to you people, ideas, opportunities, solutions that align with the feeling you've impressed upon it. This is what that surgeon did. He stopped focusing on his failure. He stopped replaying his mistakes. He stopped letting his hands shake with fear. Instead, every night before sleep, he imagined himself performing the procedure perfectly. He felt the calm confidence in his body. He heard the steady rhythm of the monitors. He saw the successful outcome. He did this with such vividness, with such feeling, that his subconscious accepted it as real. And when the time came to operate again, his hands were steady. His mind was clear. His body responded as though it had already done this successfully 100 times. Because in his imagination, it had. You can do this with anything. Anything. Not because you're special, not because you've earned it, but because this is how consciousness works. This is the principle. And principles don't care about your history, your mistakes, your worthiness. A principle operates the same for everyone. Gravity doesn't care if you're a saint or a criminal. Drop something, it falls. Consciousness doesn't care if you've been struggling for years or thriving. Hold a feeling consistently, it manifests. Now here's where it gets strange, and here's where most people trip up. There's a paradox at the heart of this. The more desperately you need something, the more you repel it. Have you noticed this? The more you chase, the more it runs. The more you grasp, the more it slips through your fingers. Why? Because need implies lack. And lack is not just a thought, it's a feeling. It's an emotional state. And that emotional state is what you're broadcasting. The universe, or life, or God, whatever you want to call this responsive principle, doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your vibrational state. It responds to how you feel. So here's the secret that will set you free. Desire deeply, but surrender attachment. Feel the reality of your wish fulfilled, and then release it with trust. You don't clutch the seed after you plant it in the ground. You don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You plant it, you cover it with soil, you water it, and then you walk away and let nature do its work. You trust the process. This is what I mean by letting go. Not giving up on your desire. Not pretending you don't want it. But releasing the anxious need for it to happen right now, in this specific way, according to your limited understanding of how it should unfold. You hold the end result in your imagination. You feel it as real. And then you let the how and the when take care of themselves. Because, here's what you have to understand. Your conscious mind is brilliant, but it's limited. It can only see a few moves ahead. It can only imagine solutions based on what it already knows. But your subconscious mind is connected to infinite intelligence. It sees all possibilities. It knows paths you cannot conceive. It can orchestrate circumstances in ways that will astonish you. So your job is not to figure out how. Your job is to define the what, and the feeling of already having it, and then get out of the way. Let the deeper intelligence that's been running your heartbeat and growing your hair and digesting your food without any conscious effort from you, let that intelligence handle the details. I've seen this work in the most remarkable ways. I knew a woman who wanted desperately to reconcile with her daughter. They hadn't spoken in years. There had been harsh words, deep wounds, a seemingly unbridgeable divide. She tried everything. Letters, phone calls, messages through family members. Nothing worked. The more she tried, the more her daughter pulled away. Then she learned this principle. She stopped trying to force it. She stopped obsessing over how it might happen. Instead, every night before sleep, she imagined a scene. A simple scene. She's sitting in her kitchen, and her daughter walks in smiling, and they embrace. That's it. She didn't script the conversation. She didn't plan the logistics. She just felt the relief, the joy, the love of that embrace. She felt it so deeply that her body responded as though it was happening. Tears came, warmth filled her chest. She fell asleep in that feeling. 3 weeks later, there was a family funeral. A distant relative, someone neither of them had seen in years. And of course, they both attended. And in that setting, neutral ground, no pressure, no agenda, they ended up sitting next to each other. A small conversation started, awkward at first, then genuine, and within months, their relationship was fully restored. Did she make that funeral happen? Did she orchestrate that encounter consciously? No. But her subconscious, impressed with the feeling of reconciliation, drew her to the right place at the right time. It created the bridge she couldn't build with effort. This is what I mean when I say your imagination is not fantasy. It's causative. It's the workshop where your future is being constructed right now, in this moment, based on what you're dwelling on, what you're feeling, what you're accepting as true about yourself. And this brings me back to the central point, the point I need you to really hear. You are not lacking power. You've never lacked it. You've been using it all along, unconsciously. You've been creating your life with every thought, with every dominant feeling, with every belief you hold. The only question is, have you been creating consciously or unconsciously? Have you been creating by default or by design? Most people create by default. They think whatever thoughts happen to drift through their mind. They feel whatever emotions their circumstances seem to provoke. They accept whatever beliefs were handed to them by parents, by society, by past failures. And then they wonder why life feels so random, so unfair, so out of their control. But you don't have to live that way. Once you recognize your divinity, once you understand that you are not a victim of life, but the very power that's shaping it, everything changes. You become deliberate. You become intentional. You stop reacting and start creating. Let me give you another way to think about this. You know how when you walk into a dark room and you flip the light switch, The room becomes bright. You don't question it. You don't wonder if you're worthy of light. You don't pray for the light to come. You don't beg the electricity to flow. You just flip the switch because you know the power is already there, already wired into the walls, already waiting to be activated. Your consciousness is like that. The power is already there. It's already wired into your very being. You just need to flip the switch, and the switch is your recognition, your awareness, your deliberate use of imagination and feeling to impress your subconscious with what you want to experience. Now, I want to talk about something that might make you uncomfortable, but it's important. You cannot fail at being yourself. You've been exhausting yourself trying to become someone worthy of divine power, someone good enough, someone healed enough, someone spiritual enough. But divinity is not a reward for goodness. It's your nature. A sunbeam doesn't earn the right to shine. It shines because it is light. You don't earn the right to be an expression of the infinite. You are an expression of the infinite. That's what you are. It's not a title you achieve. It's a fact you recognize. And yes, you're going to make mistakes. Yes, you're going to have moments of doubt and fear and regression. That doesn't revoke your divinity. That's just the human experience. The waves on the surface don't change the ocean underneath. Your divinity is not fragile. It's not conditional. It can't be lost or damaged. It can only be forgotten, and then remembered again. So stop trying to become. Start recognizing what you already are. Stop trying to fix yourself. You're not broken. You've just been misidentified. You thought you were the limited, struggling, anxious personality. But that's just the mask. That's just the role you've been playing. Behind it, underneath it, is the infinite presence, the eternal consciousness, the divine creative power that has been living as you all along. And once you recognize that, even for a moment, even as a glimpse, you'll never be able to fully believe in your powerlessness again. Oh, you'll forget sometimes. You'll get caught up in appearances. You'll react to circumstances. You'll fall back into old patterns. But there will be a part of you that remembers. A part of you that knows. And that knowing will pull you back, again and again, to the truth of what you are. Let me give you some practical ways to work with this, because I know that understanding a principle intellectually is not the same as living it. You need practices. You need things you can do, starting today, that will help you shift from the old way of seeing yourself to this new recognition. The first practice I want to give you is what I call the mirror recognition. Every morning, as soon as you wake up, before you check your phone, before you start worrying about the day ahead, go to a mirror. Look into your own eyes. Not at your face, not at your appearance, but into your eyes. And say aloud, I am the presence of God individualized. Everything I need flows through me. Now, when you first do this, your mind is going to protest. It's going to say, this is silly. This isn't true. Look at your life. Look at your problems. How can you say you're divine when you're struggling to pay rent? Let it protest. Don't fight with it. Just keep looking into your eyes and keep speaking the truth. Feel the truth of it, even if it's just a tiny flicker of feeling. Do this for 30 seconds. Just 30 seconds. You're not trying to convince yourself of a lie. You're trying to remember a truth that your conditioning has buried. And the more you do this, the more that truth will start to feel natural, familiar, like coming home to yourself. The second practice is the wish-fulfilled meditation. Every night before you go to sleep. This is crucial. Before you go to sleep, your subconscious is most receptive in that drowsy state right between waking and sleeping. In that state, your conscious mind, with all its doubts and logic, is starting to go offline. Your subconscious is open, suggestible, ready to accept impressions. So in that state, don't review your day. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't scroll through your phone. Instead, imagine a scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled. If you want financial freedom, don't imagine yourself winning the lottery or getting a check. That's too specific, and it still implies waiting for something external. Instead, imagine a scene that would only happen if you already had financial freedom. Maybe you're sitting at your favorite restaurant, relaxed, ordering whatever you want without looking at the prices. Maybe you're writing a check to a charity, feeling the joy of being able to give generously, whatever scene you choose. The key is to experience it from the first person. Don't watch yourself in the scene like you're watching a movie. Be in it. See what you would see through your own eyes. Hear what you would hear. Feel what you would touch. And most importantly, generate the emotion. How would you feel if this was really happening right now? Let your body respond. Let the feeling wash over you, and then drift off to sleep in that feeling. Do this every night. Let your subconscious work on it while you sleep. Impress it again and again with the same scene, the same feeling, and watch what starts to happen in your waking life. Opportunities you didn't see before, ideas you hadn't considered, people who show up at just the right time. Your outer world beginning to reorganize itself to match the inner pattern you've been impressing. The third practice is the frequency check. This one you do throughout the day. Set a reminder on your phone if you need to. Multiple times a day, just pause whatever you're doing and ask yourself, what frequency am I broadcasting right now? Name the emotion, honestly. Am I in fear? Am I in resentment? Am I in doubt? Am I in gratitude? Am I in peace? Don't judge whatever you find. This isn't about being positive all the time. This is about awareness. Because you can't change what you're not aware of. So just notice. Oh, I've been broadcasting worry for the last 2 hours. Now that you notice it, you have a choice. You can continue broadcasting worry, or you can consciously choose one thought that feels like relief. Just slightly better. You don't have to jump from fear to joy. That's too big a leap. Just reach for something that feels a little bit better. Maybe you're worried about money. You can't jump straight to, I'm wealthy and abundant, if you don't believe it. But maybe you can reach for, I've always figured it out before. Or something always comes through. Or, I'm open to solutions I haven't seen yet. That's a frequency shift. That's a different signal. And your subconscious is listening. Your reality is responding. The fourth practice is gratitude reversal. When you notice yourself wanting something, when you feel that sense of lack, that, I don't have this yet feeling, immediately flip it. Give thanks as though it's already here. Not as a technique to manipulate the universe, but as a way of tuning yourself to the frequency where that reality already exists. Because, here's something that will blow your mind. Everything you want already exists. Not in the future. Not as a possibility. But right now, in a frequency, in a dimension of consciousness that you're not currently tuned to. When you give thanks for it, when you feel the gratitude of already having it, you're tuning yourself to that frequency. You're closing the gap between where you are and where it is. So instead of praying, please God, send me financial freedom, say, thank you for the financial freedom I now enjoy. Instead of, please bring me a loving relationship, say, thank you for the loving relationship I'm experiencing. Feel it. Let your body respond as though it's true. This isn't pretending. This isn't lying to yourself. This is tuning. This is shifting frequency. This is how you move from one reality to another. Now I know some of you are thinking, but Joseph, what if I do all of this and nothing changes? What if I tune and I imagine, and I give thanks, and my circumstances stay exactly the same? Does that mean it doesn't work? Does that mean I'm doing it wrong? And here's what I want you to understand. First of all, there's always a time lag between the inner change and the outer manifestation. You don't plant a seed and see a tree the next morning. There's a gestation period. There's a process happening beneath the surface that you can't see yet. Your job is not to dig up the seed to check on it. Your job is to water it with faith and let it grow. But second, and this is more important, sometimes the change is happening in you before it shows up around you, and that change in you is actually the real miracle, because once you change, once you genuinely shift your frequency, the outer world has no choice but to catch up. It might not happen instantly. It might not happen the way you expect. But it will happen. I've seen people transform their entire lives. Not because their circumstances suddenly changed overnight, but because they changed how they were seeing and responding to their circumstances. and that inner change created a momentum that eventually reshaped everything. There was a man who came to me years ago. He was in debt. His business had failed. His marriage was falling apart. He was bitter, angry, blaming everyone and everything for his situation. And yes, some things that happened to him were genuinely unfair. I'm not saying he was wrong to be upset, but his anger, his victimhood, his constant focus on what went wrong that was keeping him locked in that frequency. I taught him these principles. I told him, you can't change what happened, but you can change what you're broadcasting from this moment forward. Stop rehearsing your grievances. Stop telling the story of your failure over and over. Start imagining a new story. Start feeling what it would be like if everything turned around. He resisted at first. He said, but this is my reality. I can't just pretend everything is fine. And I said, I'm not asking you to pretend. I'm asking you to choose a new frequency. Your current frequency got you here. Do you want to stay here? Or do you want to go somewhere else? Eventually, he tried it. Not because he believed it would work, but because he was desperate enough to try anything. Every morning, mirror recognition. Every night, wish fulfilled. Throughout the day, frequency checks. Gratitude reversals. And slowly, things started to shift. First internally, he noticed he wasn't as angry. He wasn't as bitter. Small opportunities started showing up. A former colleague reached out with a job lead. An unexpected check arrived in the mail, not enough to solve everything but enough to give him breathing room. His wife noticed the change in him and softened. They started talking again. Within a year, his life was completely different. Not because circumstances magically fixed themselves, but because he became a different person, broadcasting a different signal, and that new signal attracted different results. This is what I want you to understand. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. Circumstances are at the mercy of your consciousness. When you change consciousness, circumstances must change. It's law. It's principle. It's how reality works. But you have to be patient with yourself. You have to give it time. You have to keep doing the practices, even when you don't see results yet. Because the results are building. The momentum is growing. The frequency is shifting. And one day you'll look around and realize everything is different. And you won't even be able to pinpoint exactly when it changed. It will feel like it happened gradually, naturally, inevitably. Now let me address something that might be bothering you. You might be thinking, Joseph, if I'm divine, if I have all this power, then why do bad things still happen? Why is there suffering? Why did I lose someone I loved? Why did I get sick? Why did that terrible thing happen to me? And this is the hardest question. This is where the rubber meets the road. And I'm not going to give you a neat, tidy answer that makes it all make sense, because I don't have one. What I can tell you is this. Living in a human body, in a physical world, means living with limitation. It means living with uncertainty. It means living with pain and loss and death. Your divinity doesn't exempt you from the human experience. It doesn't mean nothing bad will ever happen to you. But it does mean that no matter what happens, you have the power to choose how you respond. You have the power to find meaning, to grow, to transform even the worst circumstances into something that serves your evolution. I'm not asking you to be grateful for suffering. I'm not asking you to pretend that tragedy is secretly a blessing, but I am asking you to recognize that even in the darkest moments, the divine presence within you has not abandoned you. It's still there, it's still you, and it has the capacity to carry you through, to help you heal, to help you rebuild. Some of the most spiritually awake people I've ever met are people who've been through hell. They didn't become awake because life was easy. They became awake because they had to go so deep into their own consciousness to survive that they finally touched the bedrock of their being. They finally recognized the indestructible presence that pain couldn't touch, that loss couldn't diminish, that even death couldn't end. So if you're going through something hard right now, I'm not going to tell you to just think positive thoughts and it will go away. What I will tell you is this. You are stronger than you know. You are held by something greater than your circumstances. And this too is part of your journey, part of your awakening, part of your recognition of just how vast and powerful you truly are. The divine in you is not fragile. It doesn't need protection. It doesn't need perfect conditions. It can handle whatever comes. And when you finally recognize that, when you finally stop seeing yourself as a fragile human trying to survive and start seeing yourself as an eternal consciousness, having a temporary human experience, everything changes. The fear lessens. The desperation eases. And you start to move through life with a kind of grounded peace that nothing external can shake. Let me tell you about one more person. And then I want to start bringing this all together. There was a woman, a mother, whose son was diagnosed with a terminal illness. The doctors gave him 6 months. And she went through all the stages you'd expect: denial, anger, bargaining with God, despair. But then something shifted in her. She stopped begging God to change the outcome. She stopped trying to force healing through sheer willpower. Instead, she started sitting with her son and imagining him whole, not in the future, not as a desperate hope, but as a present reality in another dimension of consciousness. She felt him healthy. She felt him thriving. She felt his laughter. And she gave thanks for it. And here's what happened. He didn't get cured. He died, just as the doctors predicted. And it was devastating. It was the hardest thing she'd ever been through. But in those final months, something miraculous happened between them. A depth of love and connection that transcended the illness. Moments of profound peace. Conversations they'd never had before. And when he passed, she felt grief. Yes, but also a strange sense of completion. A knowing that somehow, in some dimension beyond this one, he was exactly as she'd imagined him. Whole, free, joyful. Did her imagining change the physical outcome? No. But it changed her experience. It changed their experience together. It transformed what could have been 6 months of pure terror and suffering into 6 months of love and grace and deep presence. This is what I mean when I say, your power is not about controlling circumstances. It's about creating your experience of circumstances. It's about choosing the frequency you'll inhabit, no matter what's happening around you. And sometimes, the greatest demonstration of your divinity is not getting what you want. It's maintaining your peace, your love, your faith, even when you don't get what you want. That's power. That's mastery. That's recognizing that you are not your circumstances. You are the consciousness experiencing circumstances. And that consciousness is indestructible. So where does this leave us? What do I want you to take from this? If you've heard nothing else, hear this. You are not a powerless being hoping for divine intervention. You are the divine intervention. You are not separate from the source. You are the source, expressing as you. And once you recognize that, once you really let that land, you cannot go back to the old way of seeing yourself. You'll still have challenges. You'll still have moments of doubt. But underneath all of that will be a knowing, a quiet certainty that says, I am more than this situation. I am the creative power that can reshape this situation. And even if I can't change the circumstances, I can change how I meet them. Stop seeking God and start recognizing yourself as the avenue through which God flows. Your thoughts are divine activity. Your imagination is creative power. Your feelings are the sculptors of reality. You don't need permission to use this power. You don't need to be more worthy, or more healed, or more spiritual. You just need to recognize what you already are, and start living from that recognition. This doesn't mean life will be free of challenge. It means you'll stop being a victim of circumstance and become the conscious designer of experience. You'll stop waiting for life to give you what you want and start impressing your subconscious with the feeling of already having it. You'll stop looking outside yourself for validation, for approval, for power, and start recognizing that everything you need is already within you, waiting to be activated, waiting to be claimed. I want to leave you with a mantra, something you can say to yourself every single day until it becomes more real to you than your doubts. Are you ready? Here it is. I am not waiting for a miracle. I am the miracle, awakening to itself. Say it right now, out loud if you can. I am not waiting for a miracle. I am the miracle, awakening to itself. Feel the truth of that. Let it resonate in your chest. Let it quiet the voice that says you're not enough, you're not ready, you're not worthy. That voice is a liar. It's the voice of old programming, old conditioning, old misidentification. The truth is that you have always been enough. You have always been divine. You just forgot. And today, right now, you're starting to remember. So what do you do from here? You take the practices I've given you and you start using them. You don't wait until you believe they'll work. You start before you believe. You start with willingness. You start with the smallest opening that says, maybe. Maybe there's something to this. Maybe I'm more than I've been told. Maybe I'm more than I've believed. And you do the mirror recognition every morning. You do the wish-fulfilled meditation every night. You do the frequency checks throughout the day. You practice gratitude reversal. You stop rehearsing your problems and start rehearsing your solutions. You stop identifying with your circumstances and start identifying with your consciousness. And little by little, moment by moment, day by day, you'll notice shifts. Maybe subtle at first. A little more peace. A little more clarity. A coincidence that feels meaningful. A person who shows up at just the right time. An idea that pops into your head and actually leads somewhere. You'll start to see evidence that something is responding to you, that the universe, or life, or God, is not indifferent. It's listening. It's responding. Because it's not separate from you. It's you, in motion, creating through you. And the more you practice, the more you'll trust. The more you trust, the more you'll see results. And the more you see results, the deeper your recognition will become. Until one day, you won't need these practices anymore. You won't need reminders. You'll just live from this place. You'll just be this truth. And your life will reflect it in ways that will astonish you. If this resonated with you, if something inside you stirred while you were listening, I want you to know that that stirring is not me convincing you of something. It's you recognizing something. It's the truth in you responding to the truth in these words. It's your divinity saying yes. Yes, I remember, I know. This is who I am. And if you want to honor that recognition, if you want to anchor this moment, drop a comment below with just one word. Just one word that captures what you felt listening to this. Was it relief? Was it hope? Was it recognition? Was it confusion? Whatever it is, share it. Because your word matters. Your voice matters. And I read every single comment. I see you. I honor the divine in you that's waking up. If you're ready to go deeper into this truth, if you want more teachings like this, more practices, more reminders, then subscribe to this channel. Because there is so much more to explore, so many layers to this recognition, so many ways to live from this truth. And if this video helped you, if it shifted something in you, share it with one person, just one person who you know is searching too hard in the wrong direction. One person who's exhausted from trying to earn what they already possess. One person who needs to remember their divinity. You are not broken. You're not behind. You're not unworthy. You've just been misled. You've been looking outside yourself for a power that lives inside you. You've been begging for access to a kingdom you were born into. You've been trying to become something you already are. And now you know. Now you remember. And your life will never be the same. You are divinity in motion. You are consciousness itself, experiencing life through this unique perspective, with these unique gifts, with these unique desires. And everything you need to live the life you came here to live is already within you, already available, already broadcasting, just waiting for you to tune in. Never forget it again. Not for a second, not for a moment. Because the world needs you awake. The world needs you remembering. The world needs you living from your divinity instead of your fear. Go now. Practice. Remember. Claim what's yours. And watch as everything changes. But before you go, I want to spend a little more time with you here, because I know that when you hear truths like this, when you hear things that challenge everything you've been taught about yourself and about how life works, there's a part of you that wants to believe it, and a part of you that's terrified to believe it. And I want to speak to both of those parts. I want to give you more examples, more clarity, more reassurance that this path is real and that you can walk it. Let me tell you something about the nature of belief itself. You've been taught that belief is something you either have or you don't. That some people are believers and some people are skeptics, but that's not accurate. Belief is not a fixed state. Belief is a muscle, and like any muscle, it gets stronger the more you use it. Right now, you might not fully believe that you're divine. You might not fully believe that your thoughts create your reality. You might not fully believe that the power of the entire universe is flowing through you right this second. And that's okay. You don't need full belief to start. You just need a crack. Just a tiny opening. Just a willingness to experiment. Think of it this way. Before you learned to ride a bicycle, you didn't believe you could do it. You watched other people riding, and it looked impossible. 2 wheels, balancing, momentum, steering, all at the same time. Your mind couldn't conceive of how you'd ever coordinate all of that. But then someone put you on a bike. Maybe they held the back of the seat. Maybe you had training wheels, and you wobbled. You fell. You got scared. But you tried again, and again. And one day, without even realizing exactly when it happened, you were riding, and once you learned, you could never unlearn it. The belief became knowing. The knowing became natural, and now you don't think about it. You just ride. This is the same. You don't need to believe you're divine with absolute certainty right now. You just need to get on the bike. You just need to try the practices. You just need to experiment with imagination, with feeling, with tuning your frequency. And as you do, as you start to see small results, your belief will grow. And as your belief grows, your results will grow. And eventually belief will transform into knowing. And knowing doesn't waver. Knowing doesn't doubt. Knowing just is. I want to tell you about a man I knew who was struggling with chronic anxiety. It had been with him for years. He'd tried therapy. He'd tried medication. He'd tried meditation, breathing exercises, journaling, everything. Some things helped a little, but nothing really resolved it. The anxiety was always there, humming in the background, ready to spike at any moment. He came to one of my lectures, and he heard these principles. And his first reaction was resistance. He thought, this sounds like magical thinking. This sounds like you're telling me to just imagine my problems away. That's not how anxiety works. And he was right, in a sense. You can't just imagine anxiety away. You can't just decide not to be anxious and have it disappear. But that's not what I was teaching. What I was teaching was that anxiety is not the problem. Anxiety is the symptom. The problem is the frequency you're tuned to. The problem is the signal you're broadcasting. So I asked him, when you're anxious, what are you imagining? What story is playing in your mind? And he said, I'm imagining everything going wrong. I'm imagining worst-case scenarios. I'm imagining myself failing, people judging me, my life falling apart. And I said, exactly. You're using your imagination brilliantly. You're just using it against yourself. You're impressing your subconscious with vivid images of disaster. And your body is responding, as though those disasters are actually happening. Your heart races. Your stomach tightens. Your breathing gets shallow. Not because disaster is happening, but because you're imagining it so vividly that your nervous system can't tell the difference. And then I said, what if you used that same imaginative power, that same vividness, to imagine things going right? What if every time you noticed yourself spiraling into worst-case scenarios, you consciously redirected to a best-case scenario, not to deny that bad things could happen, but to stop rehearsing them, to stop giving them your energy, your feeling, your creative power? He was skeptical, but he was also desperate. So he tried it. Every time he felt anxiety rising, instead of following the anxious thoughts, he'd pause and ask himself, what would I be imagining if I felt safe right now? What would I be picturing if I trusted that everything was working out? And he'd deliberately create that image. He'd see himself succeeding. He'd see people responding positively. He'd see his life unfolding smoothly. At first it felt fake. It felt like lying to himself. But he kept doing it anyway. And something remarkable happened. The anxiety didn't disappear overnight, but it lost its grip. It became less frequent, less intense. And when it did show up, he had a tool. He had a way to redirect. Within a few months, he was experiencing longer and longer stretches of genuine peace. Not because his circumstances had changed dramatically, but because he'd changed the signal he was broadcasting. He'd stopped feeding the frequency of danger and started tuning to the frequency of safety, and his nervous system responded. This is what I mean when I say this work is practical. It's not abstract philosophy. It's not wishful thinking. It's a method. It's a technology of consciousness. And it works for anxiety, for depression, for relationship problems, for money problems, for health problems, because all of these things, at their root, are consciousness problems. They're problems of misidentification, misperception, and habitual broadcasting of frequencies you don't actually want to experience. Now let me go deeper into something I touched on earlier, but I want to expand because it's crucial. The relationship between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Most people don't understand this relationship. They think the conscious mind is in charge. They think, I decide what I believe, I decide what I think, I'm in control. But that's only partially true. Your conscious mind is like the captain of a ship. It can set the direction. It can make decisions. But the subconscious mind is the crew, the engine, the entire vessel that actually does the work. And here's the thing. The subconscious mind is vastly more powerful than the conscious mind. Some estimates say it's 1,000,000 times more powerful. It processes millions of bits of information per second. It runs your entire body without you having to think about it. It stores every memory, every experience, every belief you've ever formed. And it's completely programmable. But here's the catch. It doesn't speak the language of logic. It doesn't respond to reasoning or arguments. It responds to images and emotions. It responds to repetition. It responds to the feeling tone of your thoughts, not the content. This is why you can consciously want something very much and still not have it. Because wanting it consciously doesn't matter if your subconscious is programmed with a different belief. If your subconscious believes you're unworthy, or that money is scarce, or that love is dangerous, or that success requires suffering, then no amount of conscious desire is going to override that programming. But when you learn to speak the language of the subconscious, when you learn to impress it with images and feelings that align with what you want, then the subconscious becomes your greatest ally. It starts working on your behalf 24 hours a day. It starts noticing opportunities you would have missed. It starts drawing people and circumstances to you that match your new programming. It starts creating what you've impressed upon it. This is why the wish-fulfilled meditation is so powerful. Because you're doing it in that drowsy state before sleep, when the conscious mind is loosening its grip and the subconscious is most receptive. And you're not just thinking about what you want. You're experiencing it. You're seeing it from the first-person perspective. You're generating the emotions. You're making it real to your subconscious. And your subconscious accepts it as real. And once it accepts something as real, it must externalize it. That's its nature. That's its function. Let me give you another example. There was a woman who wanted to move to a new city. She'd wanted this for years. She had logical reasons. Better job opportunities, better climate, closer to family. But every time she tried to make it happen, something would block it. The timing was wrong. The money wasn't there. She'd get cold feet. It was like an invisible wall kept stopping her. We explored her subconscious beliefs. And what we found was that deep down she believed that leaving her current city meant abandoning her father. Her father had passed away 10 years earlier, and he was buried in the cemetery in that city. And unconsciously, she felt that moving away would be a betrayal. That she'd be leaving him behind. This wasn't a conscious thought. Consciously, she knew her father would want her to be happy, would want her to pursue her dreams. But the subconscious doesn't operate on logic. It operates on emotion. And the emotion was guilt. Once we brought this to awareness, she could address it. She had a conversation with her father, in her imagination. She told him her plans. She asked for his blessing. She felt his love and support. She understood that his memory lived in her heart, not in a physical location. And she released the guilt. She gave herself permission to move. And within 2 months, everything fell into place. A job offer came through. The money became available. The logistics that had seemed impossible suddenly became simple, because once her subconscious was aligned with her conscious desire, there was no more internal resistance. The path cleared. This is what I want you to understand. Most of the obstacles in your life are not external, they're internal. They're subconscious beliefs and programs that are running in the background, sabotaging your efforts without you even realizing it. And the beautiful thing is, you can reprogram them. You can change them. You can install new beliefs that support you instead of limiting you. But you have to do the work. You have to be willing to go into your imagination and create new patterns. You have to be willing to feel new emotions. You have to be willing to question old beliefs and release them. Now I want to talk about something that often confuses people. The relationship between desire and detachment. I said earlier that you need to desire deeply but surrender attachment. And people ask me, how can I want something and not be attached to it? Isn't desire the same as attachment? No. Desire and attachment are not the same thing. Desire is the creative impulse. Desire is life wanting to expand through you. Desire is healthy. Desire is natural. Without desire, you wouldn't grow. You wouldn't create. You wouldn't evolve. So don't suppress your desires. Don't try to be so spiritual that you pretend you don't want anything. That's not enlightenment. That's denial. But attachment is different. Attachment is fear-based. Attachment says, I need this specific thing to happen in this specific way at this specific time, or else I won't be okay. Attachment is the anxious clinging, the desperate grasping, the inability to trust. Attachment creates resistance, and resistance blocks the flow. So here's how you hold both. You desire fully. You allow yourself to want what you want without shame or apology. You imagine it. You feel it. You give it your energy and attention. But then you release it. You say, I want this, and I trust that if it's truly aligned with my highest good, it will come. And if something even better is meant for me, I'm open to that too. I trust the intelligence that's orchestrating this. I don't need to control every detail. This is what surrender really means. Not giving up on your desire, but giving up your need to control how it manifests. Trusting that there's a greater intelligence at work, an intelligence that sees possibilities you can't see, that can orchestrate circumstances in ways you can't imagine. I'll give you a personal example. Early in my career, I wanted to speak at a particular venue. It was prestigious. It would have been a huge opportunity. I tried everything to make it happen. I reached out to the organizers. I pulled strings. I visualized it. I affirmed it. Nothing worked. The door stayed closed. I was frustrated. I couldn't understand why this thing I wanted so much, this thing I'd worked so hard for, wasn't manifesting. And then I did what I'm teaching you. I released my attachment to that specific venue. I said, okay, universe, I want to share this message. I want to reach people, but I don't need it to be this venue. Show me where I'm meant to speak. 2 weeks later, I got an invitation to speak somewhere else. A smaller venue, less prestigious, I thought. I almost turned it down. But something told me to say yes, and when I spoke there, in the audience was a publisher who ended up offering me a book deal. That book reached millions of people. Far more than I ever would have reached with a single speech at that prestigious venue. The universe wasn't denying me. It was redirecting me to something better. But I couldn't see it until I let go of my attachment to the specific outcome I thought I wanted. This happens all the time. You think you want this particular job, but the universe gives you a different one that turns out to be perfect. You think you want this particular person, but they're not available, and then you meet someone even more compatible. You think you need this exact amount of money by this exact date, and instead, you receive an unexpected gift or opportunity that meets your need in a different way. So stay open. Desire what you desire, but hold it lightly. Let the universe surprise you. Let it show you what's possible beyond what you've imagined. Now let's talk about worthiness, because this is a huge block for so many people. You might be hearing all of this and thinking, okay, I get it intellectually, I understand the principles, but I just don't feel worthy. I don't feel like I deserve good things. I've made too many mistakes. I've failed too many times. I'm too broken, too damaged, too flawed, and I want to say this as clearly and emphatically as I can. Worthiness is not something you earn. It's not something you achieve. It's not something you become qualified for. Worthiness is inherent. You were worthy the moment you were born. You were worthy before you were born. You are worthy right now, exactly as you are, with all your flaws and failures and imperfections. Do you think the sun questions whether it's worthy to shine? Do you think a flower wonders if it deserves to bloom? Do you think the ocean asks permission to be vast? No. They express their nature without hesitation, without apology, without self-doubt. And you are no different. You are an expression of the infinite. That's not a reward you have to earn. That's what you are. Your mistakes don't disqualify you. Your past doesn't define you. Your current circumstances don't determine your worth. You are worthy because you exist. Period. End of story. And I know, you've got a voice in your head that's saying, but you don't know what I've done. You don't know how badly I've messed up. You don't know the things I'm ashamed of. And you're right. I don't know your specific story. But I know this. Whatever you've done, whatever's happened to you, you are still a divine being having a human experience. You are still an individualized expression of infinite consciousness. And that has never changed and can never change. So stop waiting to feel worthy. Stop trying to fix yourself first. Stop believing that you have to become someone different before you're allowed to access your power. You're allowed right now. You're worthy right now. Not because you've earned it, but because it's your nature. Here's a practice that might help with this. Every time you notice a thought of unworthiness, don't fight it. Don't try to convince yourself otherwise with affirmations you don't believe. Just notice it and say, that's an old program, that's old conditioning, that's not the truth of what I am. And then redirect. Think of one thing you appreciate about yourself. One thing. It can be small. I'm kind to animals. I showed up for my friend when they needed me. I'm trying, even when it's hard. Just one thing. And let yourself feel the truth of that for a moment. This is how you reprogram. Not by forcing yourself to believe you're perfect when you don't feel perfect, but by gently, consistently, redirecting your attention to evidence of your inherent goodness, your inherent worth. Over time, that becomes the dominant program, and the old voice of unworthiness gets quieter and quieter until it's just background noise you barely notice. Let me tell you about a student I worked with who was dealing with deep shame about her past. She'd been in an abusive relationship in her 20s. She'd stayed far longer than she should have. She'd made choices she regretted. And even though she'd left that relationship years ago, she carried the shame like a weight. She couldn't forgive herself. She couldn't let it go. I asked her, if a friend came to you with this exact story, what would you say to them? And without hesitation she said, I'd tell them it wasn't their fault. I'd tell them they did the best they could with the awareness they had at the time. I'd tell them to stop punishing themselves. So why can't you say that to yourself? I asked. And she started crying. Because she could extend compassion to everyone except herself. She held herself to an impossible standard. She believed she should have known better, should have been stronger, should have left sooner. We worked on this. We worked on her seeing herself with the same compassion she'd give to a friend. We worked on her understanding that she wasn't weak, or stupid, or broken. She was someone who'd been hurt, who'd been manipulated, who'd been in an impossible situation, and she'd survived. And that survival was evidence of her strength, not her weakness. Slowly, the shame began to lift. She began to forgive herself. She began to see that her past didn't define her present. And as she released the shame, as she stopped identifying with that old story, her whole life changed. She started attracting healthier relationships. She started feeling more confident. She started allowing herself to receive good things without feeling like she didn't deserve them. This is what forgiveness does. Not condoning what happened, not pretending it was okay, but releasing the grip it has on you, releasing the identity you've built around it, letting yourself be free. And if you're carrying shame or guilt or regret about something in your past, I want you to hear this. You are not that past version of yourself. You are not the mistakes you made. You are consciousness, always evolving, always growing, always capable of choosing differently. And the moment you choose to forgive yourself, to release the old story, to see yourself as worthy despite what happened, everything shifts. Now let me address something else that comes up a lot. People ask me, Joseph, if I'm creating my reality with my thoughts and feelings, does that mean when bad things happen, it's my fault? Did I create that? Did I attract that? And this is a tricky question because I don't want to add blame on top of pain. I don't want you to go through something difficult and then beat yourself up thinking you caused it. So let me be nuanced here. Yes, your consciousness creates your experience. Yes, your dominant thoughts and feelings shape your reality. But that doesn't mean you consciously chose every single thing that happens to you. It doesn't mean you wanted the painful things. It doesn't mean you're to blame. Sometimes things happen that are beyond your individual consciousness. You're part of a collective. You're part of systems and structures and circumstances that involve other people's choices, other people's consciousness. Sometimes you're affected by things you didn't personally create. And sometimes things happen that are actually serving your evolution in ways you can't see yet. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us become the catalyst for the most profound growth. Sometimes we had to go through that valley to find the strength we didn't know we had. Sometimes the breakdown was necessary for the breakthrough. So I'm not going to tell you that everything that happens is your fault or your doing. What I will tell you is that you always have the power to choose your response. You always have the power to decide what meaning you'll make of it. You always have the power to choose whether this experience will destroy you or transform you. Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps of Nazi Germany, said that the last of the human freedoms is the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. They took everything from him. His family, his freedom, his dignity. But they couldn't take his inner freedom. They couldn't take his power to choose how he'd respond internally to what was happening externally. And he chose to find meaning. He chose to help other prisoners. He chose to maintain his humanity in the most inhumane conditions imaginable. And that choice, that inner power, is what allowed him to survive. And more than survive, to become someone who could teach the world about the resilience of the human spirit. You have that same power. Not to control everything that happens to you, but to control who you'll be in the face of what happens. And that's a profound power. That's a divine power. That's the power that no circumstance can touch. So if you're going through something hard right now, if you're in pain, if you're struggling, I'm not going to tell you to just think happy thoughts and it will go away. What I'm going to tell you is this. You have the capacity to meet this moment. You have the strength to carry this weight. You have the power to find meaning, to grow, to transform even this into something that serves you. Not because you wanted this, not because you chose this, but because you are divine consciousness, and divine consciousness is infinitely creative, infinitely resilient, infinitely capable of finding a way forward. And years from now, when you've come through this, when you've integrated this experience, you might look back and realize that this was the moment everything changed. This was the moment you discovered your true strength. This was the moment you stopped being a victim and became a creator. This was the moment your divinity revealed itself not in ease, but in adversity. Let me talk about patience, because this is something that challenges everyone who walks this path. You start doing the practices. You start imagining your wish fulfilled. You start tuning your frequency. And you want results now. You want proof now. You want evidence that this is working. And when you don't see immediate changes, you get discouraged. You think, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe it doesn't work for me. Maybe I'm the exception. But creation takes time. There's a gestation period. When a woman becomes pregnant, the baby doesn't appear instantly. There's 9 months of hidden growth, of development happening in the unseen before the baby is born. And you can't rush it. You can't force it. You have to trust the process. It's the same with your desires. Once you've impressed your subconscious, once you've planted the seed, there's an invisible process happening. Things are being arranged. Circumstances are being orchestrated. People are being moved into position. It's all happening beneath the surface, in ways you can't see yet. And if you get impatient, if you keep digging up the seed to check on it, if you keep doubting and questioning and reverting back to your old frequency, you interrupt the process. So you need faith. Not blind faith, not naive faith, but faith in the principle, faith in the law, faith that what you've set in motion is in motion, and your job is to maintain the frequency, to keep feeling the reality of your wish fulfilled, to keep trusting even when you don't see evidence yet. I know a man who wanted to write a book. He'd wanted this for a decade. He had the ideas. He had the passion, but he couldn't seem to make it happen. He'd start and stop. He'd doubt himself. He'd compare himself to other writers and feel inadequate. Years went by, and the book remained unwritten. Then he learned these principles, and he started doing the wish-fulfilled meditation. Every night, he imagined holding his finished book. He saw the cover. He felt the weight of it. He imagined people reading it and being moved by it. He felt the satisfaction of having completed it. He did this for months, and nothing seemed to be happening. He was still staring at a blank page every day, but he kept doing it. He kept holding the feeling, and slowly, something shifted. He started writing more consistently, not because he forced himself, but because the desire to write became stronger than the fear of not being good enough. Ideas started flowing more easily. The words started coming, and within a year, the book was done, and within 2 years it was published, and within 3 years, it had reached thousands of people. Looking back, he couldn't pinpoint exactly when it clicked, but he knew that those months of faithful imagination, those months of holding the end result in his consciousness, had created the internal shift that made the external manifestation possible. This is what patience looks like. Not passive waiting, but active faith. Continuing to do the inner work even when the outer results aren't visible yet, trusting that the seed you planted is growing, even underground, even in the dark. So if you're in that place right now, if you've been practicing and you're not seeing results yet, don't give up. Don't conclude it's not working. Keep going. Keep feeling. Keep trusting. The harvest is coming. The gestation period will complete. And when it does, you'll look back and understand why the timing was exactly right. Let me close this extended time with you by talking about legacy. Because ultimately, this work isn't just about you getting what you want. It's about you becoming who you truly are. It's about you living from your divinity instead of your conditioning. And when you do that, you change not just your own life but the lives of everyone around you. When you recognize your divinity, when you start living from that place of power and peace and purpose, people notice. They feel it. They're drawn to it. And without even trying, without preaching or teaching or explaining, you become a living demonstration of what's possible. You become proof that consciousness can be transformed. You become evidence that there's another way to live. And that's a gift to the world. That's a legacy. That's how consciousness evolves. One person at a time, waking up, remembering, embodying the truth. So this isn't selfish work. This isn't just about manifesting a better car or a bigger house or more money. Those things are fine. Those things can be part of it. But the real transformation is internal. The real gift is becoming the person you were always meant to be. The person who knows they're divine. The person who lives without fear because they trust the infinite intelligence flowing through them. The person who radiates peace and power and presence because they've remembered what they are. And when you become that person, you inspire others to remember too. Your children see it. Your friends feel it. Your colleagues notice it. And slowly, subtly, the collective consciousness shifts. Because we're all connected. We're all one consciousness, experiencing itself from different perspectives. And when one of us wakes up, it makes it easier for others to wake up too. So I want you to see this work not just as personal development, but as spiritual service. Every time you choose faith over fear, you're serving. Every time you tune to a higher frequency, you're serving. Every time you recognize your divinity, instead of your limitation, you're serving. You're raising the vibration of the whole. You're contributing to the evolution of consciousness itself. And that's sacred work. That's meaningful work. That's the work you came here to do. Not to be perfect, not to never struggle, but to remember, to wake up, to recognize, and to live from that recognition as fully and authentically as you can. So take everything I've shared with you, take the practices, take the principles, take the stories, take the encouragement, and make it yours. Apply it, test it, see what happens, and then share what you learn with others who are ready to hear it. You are divinity in motion. Never forget that. Not for a second. Not in your darkest moment. Not in your greatest triumph. You are the infinite, expressing as you. And that's the most extraordinary, most empowering, most transformative truth you'll ever encounter. Live from it. Breathe it. Be it. And watch as your entire world transforms to match the truth of what you are.